Hey there, in today's video I am using up some old paint. Now in general, a lot of times I get to the end of a tube or I have some paint that I have not used in a really long time that I find at the bottom. And even sometimes I bought used paint and it's been random colors and things like that. So anyway, I have 3 tubes, I want to use them up. So I'm going to show you what I do. Sometimes I will actually just spread it all on a canvas. But for today, I wanted to kind of mix it with other colors and get it to the, kind of the value that I wanted. And then used it in my art journal and on little kind of scrap pieces of paper that I then sometimes turn into cards or little miniature, art pieces. So anyway, I just taking you along on the journey. I thought this would be a really short experiment, and I literally spent all afternoon. So then I'm rushing off to the next thing. So anyway, I'm going to fast forward through most of it. I'll give you a little bit of words, but it's really, it's intuitive. It's just I'm paint mixing, and then I'm sampling and swatching it. And then I'm just using it up. So I will not bore you with every single detail of the entire thing, but that's kind of the gist of it. So if you have some old paint, I would just recommend that you, go dig it out and just use it up in a way like this versus just letting it, harden in your, your drawer. So again, use what you have. So anyway, let's get started.
The first color I'm going to use is this leaf green, Daler and Rowney, and it is quite soft. It's not a color. I'm just trying to use up these old tubes, like I said. So I'm going to mix it with, I'm going to put it in the middle, and I'm using this plastic palette tray because it's easier to mix this heavy body paint on than the palette paper, in my experience. Now, eventually, you can see these little remnants of paint that does peel up. You get enough layers and it peels right up, and it is dried, so it will not impact the paint that I'm using. But I typically like to use the palette paper because it shows better on camera. But for today's purposes, I'm just going to be using this palette. So, and I'm going to mix the paint, and then I'm going to use a variety of brushes, maybe some color shapers, that kind of thing. So I have raw umber, Payne's gray, neutral gray, and titanium white. So we'll see what happens. What I'm going to work on top of is I have just stacks and stacks of papers, and because I clean my brushes off, or maybe I don't have any, I can't think of what to do, so I'll just take a pastel or a pencil and just make marks, that kind of thing. I also might work inside of on an art journal, like a page like this that's just kind of boring. I might add something to. So I have the stack of all my art journals off here to the side. I have the stack of papers I'm going to put off to the side until I get this mixed up, and then I'm just going to quickly go through and I'm just using up the paint. Often I would do this maybe on a canvas, but these are colors that are a little bit trickier, and I'm to the end of the tubes, and I just feel like I want them to go away. And I know that seems crazy, but I will say one of the things I wanted to say, a couple things I've been doing with this size when I work on this size, which is kind of cut down paper or cardboard, or it could be collaged. I use these a lot of times to make cards, greeting cards. I've also recently been putting them in, and maybe I'll show you how I do this. I've been putting them inside a mat, and it has a mat board, and then I'm considering the next time I have so it makes it's a 5x7. So inside, I believe it's 4x6. It makes just kind of a framed art piece. But obviously it's not framed, but it's in the mat to be framed. So another alternative to just making a card. So that's what I do with all of these pieces, in case you were wondering. So anyway, without any more chit chat, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the paint, I'm going to mix it up, and then I'm just going to fast forward as I use up the paint, because it could be, I'm just going to go piece by piece and just quickly do some work. I might initially, do some big swaths of color, which maybe would be a great way to use up a lot of it, because there is quite a bit in here. So anyway, I'm going to get started and mixing, and we'll just see what happens. And this is okay. I've got all the paint out, and it was a little cumbersome getting it out of the tube because these metal tubes, they're tricky. And I know there are little gizmos that you can get to, to squirt all the paint out, because it is kind of a tedious process. So now I'm just going to, wow, and there's more than I anticipated. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to start mixing until and I may end up bringing in some more paints. I'm just not sure how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to get started and you can follow along. Okay, I've decided that maybe what I'm going to do is swatch these colors. Let's just see what they look like. Let's find a page in here that's empty. Good luck. Okay, here we go. And let's just see what it looks like, right? Let's see, here's the original, which may not be totally original given that it's, combined with a little bit what was on the palette. Okay, that's pretty vibrant. This pale color, I didn't think I was really going to be into. It's a little too pastel for me, so I may end up mixing that in. And let's go over here to the gray. I'll kind of lift this up. That's nice, but I think I'm gonna got something on there that's letting that. And then I'll just do a small of the what do I want to say? Payne's gray. I like that. I think I can already tell I like the one mixed with the raw umber the best right here. It's more of a, kind of an olive green. So this is the color I like the most. I may think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of raw umber to each of these. And then, although I do want a really light color too, because I feel like I tend to end up with all my colors being dark. So I'll add a little bit of brown and I may add some more light to this. So let's see what happens. And then I want to just get started, like putting it on these papers. All right, I got the paint mixed up. I ended up bringing in a yellow ochre. Just felt like I needed one more variation. I'm going to use my brushes and I'm just going to start painting. I'm going to start in this little journal and I will fast forward just because, it's not going to be too interesting, but I'm just going to be using up this paint that I have. Yeah. Okay, this time I've already got my paint out, same paint, except for this time the paint I'm using up is yellow ochre. And I realized after the last round that it makes a lot of paint and it takes a long time. I kind of had to stop videoing some of it. So what I think I'm going to do this time is use my big journals to get a lot of the paint down. I will swatch it real quick. And then after that, I will work on the smaller papers because it's just too much paint and it's very time intensive. So I am going to just speed up the process since you've kind of seen it already and you know what's going to happen, and you can just see what happens with the yellow ochre and how I use up this little tube. For the last color I am using up, I used up this little burnt sienna, and it made quite a lot. So I don't know that how much I will show you. I'm going to mix these up real quick, and then again, I will use the big journals first, kind of try to use up as much of the paint as possible, and then I'll show you on the little ones. So I hope that you know, go get all your, your paints that are close to being used up, or they're old like these, and go use them. And just, like I'm doing, just fill pages in your art journal, just use them as, for your cards or whatever.